This is a unique opportunity for the participants. If you do have questions, comments, if you do an e-raise of hand, we will take you. So any questions, any comments, contributions for Mrs. Benson Owoyinka before she leaves? Could be from any of our speakers, participants. Tony, I see yourself and Timmy. You have your mics unmuted. Did you want to speak? Did you want to ask a question?
I wanted to say, firstly, how desperately sorry I am to hear about this collapse of the building, and my heart goes out to all of those involved and the families of those who've lost loved ones. It's not really something that I can get my head around. It's almost like a 9/11 type situation. But we need to get to the bottom of this. In the UK, for example, any builder has to give you a 10-year warranty at least on his building, and he has to be insured and fully covered. This is something that really needs to be done, I'm sure, in Lagos, and you're an advocate for that, of course, and you'll push it. I don't know how. Is this something that needs to go through your Senate or whatever it is, the parliamentary organization you have? Are the people who are for this, are the people who don't want to go ahead because they're involved financially in a lot of buildings which have already been constructed? It's something that there needs to be an independent review, probably, on all building that's been going ahead in Lagos. That would be my opinion, somehow. And you look like you might be the obvious candidate to be able to help facilitate that. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, for that. Ben, you're unmuted. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I did. I just want to say that, given the tragedy that occurred, I think that it's going to impact sales tremendously, because the fundamental question now is, who was the builder? So it now begins to bring to the fore asking a fundamental question when you are buying and when you are selling. Who the builder is. You have to know who the builder is, understand their capabilities, what they've done before, their history, and all of that, so that, it becomes a major selling point. Tragedies there are other smaller things that happen all over the town that don't have this kind of news coverage, but because it's a highbrow area, it's a big, massive development, so it becomes big news. So, but I think that the fundamental question to be asked, or at least an information to be shared with a prospective buyer, is who the builder is and their history and their track record.
Absolutely, Ben. That's a question that I don't even think needed this tragedy to happen for people to ask. And as professionals, we're here. I believe that that's a question that even before taking on a mandate that needs to be asked. It's certainly a question that we ask. And part of this masterclass actually is taking professionals through the types of due diligence that we need to do. It's both, title in terms of legal, aspect of the asset that you're selling, but also financial is also critical. But then in addition, what we're selling is credibility, especially for those who offer new builds. And so if you're selling credibility, the first question has to be, whose property are you selling? Who is building? Who are the contractors? We even ask questions like, do you have approvals? From the government, show those approvals and all of those things. Clearly, we're not technical and we're not going to, check your buildings. But we've had projects where we actually bring on project managers. That's how far I believe that professionals need to go. Now, the question of legal liability, because we're in a country where we're not as litigious, but with things like this now, we're going to see more of those types of consciousness and awareness. But let me leave that. I want to come Awoyinka, because we have you for a limited time. We recognize the importance of what's going on in Lagos at the moment. A lot will come out of this. You've definitely spoken and said, we're going to, obviously do what we have to do. And I think that now, at the minimum, what will be clear is that everyone who is well-meaning needs to support the work that, you're doing, that Lagos is doing. Tim Covington made some suggestions, recommendations, and in a sense, reflections. I'd like you to speak to that if you've heard it. But before you do, let me take Akin, just in case he has a question that you may want to also then just put them all together and respond. Akin, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Awoyinka. I can't imagine how busy you'll be today. Thank you for your time. So just two questions. One, so I've been following the good work you've been doing at the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority. My first question goes as regards data gathering. So I don't know if you can share more light. I know that has the work on data gathering started in terms of housing stock in the state? Do we have those numbers? Then as regards also registering practitioners, I know there was a time that the department was supposed to register every single broker realtor in Lagos. I also wanted you to speak on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe I'll start with you, Adi. Yes, thank you so much. We were just, I think the agency is just here at the right time. Sometimes when these things happen, we wonder when people have those brain waves and they say, oh, it's time to do this, and then something happens and then we all realize that, oh yes, it definitely is time. Yes, we're gathering data. The housing stock, we're working on it with the Ministry of Economic Planning and the Ministry of Finance, the land who are in charge of the Land Use Act. We're doing a compendium of all buildings in Lagos to see how we can bring in the financing to the developer, and that's why we need that governance structure and the transparency. So on the housing data, yes, we are gathering data, and I'm sure we'll be able to start giving you something by the middle of next year. On what was your second question?
My second question was on the registration of practitioners and realtors and brokers in Lagos.
We have at least 81 registered practitioners, both corporates and individuals. We're working with the associations since you've been following us. I know that you know that we've been reaching out, we've been engaging. So we need to get everybody on board. We need to know what you're doing with that investment that you're doing. We need to protect people's monies. We need to protect people's livelihoods. And if we as a government fail to do that, then we'll be failing ourselves as well, because we're also citizens of this state. So yes, we have people registering. We have a drive right now. We have a monitoring and enforcement team going all over Lagos and telling them that as a developer, as a practitioner, we need to know who you are. We need to know because we need to plan around your livable spaces. We need to complement your infrastructure. If we do not know what you're building, we cannot bring in complementary infrastructure. So if you're building units that will introduce at least 2,000, 1,000 more residents into a neighborhood, there has to be complementary infrastructure. If we do not have your data, we don't get that data from you, offtake, number of units, everything that we need to know, then we're not going to be able to provide such facilities for you. So, team, I'm going to come back to you now. Yes, we do have a House of Assembly, not the Senate. The House of Assembly in Lagos is the legislative arm of government. We've been working together on legislation. We're going to go back into that legislation. We're going to introduce insurance. Insurance is key. We have to go and introduce insurance. So for every development, every developer, we need to have liability insurance. We have to have workmen's compensation insurance. We have to look deep and make sure that every aspect of that transaction is protected. And I know that is the job of government to put regulations there, but it's also for the stakeholders, like the people on this platform today, to also make sure that they partner with us. It's very important for the practitioners to partner with us. The Black man in Africa is seen as very draconian, but I think it's because our people do not easily lean towards regulations and laws, not for the want of it, but maybe because of thinking that government would not come back when they put these things in place, they will not come back to come and check it. So as government, we're going to make sure that all those legislations are put on the table. We're going to have a stakeholders meeting in December at the marketplace, where we're actually going to speak to them as a family. I still want to continue to use engagement. Engage them as a family. You have work to do. You're making money in that industry. You're providing service in that industry. Complement the efforts of government, and let's protect both the investors, the off-takers, the financial industry, the financial industry, who is putting that money down, and make sure that every item of that transaction is insured, so that people can have recourse to get back whatever they lose when things like this happen. But I hope that this would never, ever happen again in this industry in Lagos.
We hope so too, and we pray so. We know that it's not an easy road. Tough decisions, leadership is about courage. And if there's no courage, there can be no leadership. So what needs to be done has to be done. From our perspective as stakeholders also, we recognize how tough the work is, and recognize that at the heart of this is trust. There can be no leadership without trust on both sides of the aisle, from the leaders, from the followers, the citizens, and we're all stakeholders. And so, the word you use, engagement, is part of what will create the trust. And once people understand, in quote, what is in it for them, they're more likely to cooperate. But in addition, government, can't wait for full-on cooperation in order to do certain things that they have to do for the good of all. And so ultimately, government is about being a force of good for the benefit of all, including those who are not necessarily sitting at the table. There's a sense in which some of this data and some of this information we feel should and already exist with certain departments. So for example, a developer cannot develop a 21-story building in Lagos, certainly not in Ikoyi, without, Lagos State having already captured, done an assessment, given an approval, how many units can be in that building. And I imagine should be monitoring that development or that project, So there's some aspect of that will also need to come back as room for reflection for the government and for the departments that are responsible, while in addition ensuring that the professionals at all levels of the value chain also know what their responsibilities are, their obligations, and of course what their privileges are. So as I said earlier, you have your work cut out for you. We're here to do the best that we can to ensure that the industry that we're part of is one that everyone can mutually benefit from. But with those benefits also come obligations as professionals. So thank you so much for your time. I'm just going to let you give us a wrap-up word, conclusion, admonition, encouragement, or whatever it is that you'd like to share over the next minute or two. Back to you, Mr. Woyinka.
Thank you, Udo. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. I also want to thank you for what you just organized, what you're doing. I want to thank you for the academy. We need to raise the stakes. We need to have minimum irreducible standards that every practitioner in the entire value chain must have. We need to get it away from the charlatans. We need to make it a more serious environment to work in. We need to make it transparent. We need to create governing structures that will guide the industry. So I'm looking forward to working with you in future, making sure that academy is one of the best in the state, where we can always make reference to and tell people that before you can become a realtor in Lagos, we need you to have certain training, certain minimal training, whatever it is. Maybe it's the marketing for real estate, maybe it's for development. We're going to make sure that we partner the professional associations very, very vigorously, so that we put an end to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who doesn't have anything to do saying, oh, I'm a real estate developer, I'm a real estate agent, I sell properties. We need to work together to make it a more professional environment. So I thank you very much, and I hope you have a very fulfilling time in this 2 days of deliberations. Thank you.